an article written by Miranda Devine for the New York Post on the shooting at the elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, titled, "Where Are the Men of Courage?" They're gone thanks to toxic masculinity. So, we vilify action men and we brand chivalry and valor as toxic masculinity. And we stamp on the manly virtues that made the very civilization in which we live possible. Then we are shocked when armed cops stand around outside a classroom while children are slaughtered. We are amazed when strap hangers watch passively as a woman is assaulted on a New York City subway. So what's the answer? Well, Democrats cynically demonize Republicans over guns as a motivator for their base, and Republicans fall back on hardening security to prevent more school shootings. But Little Rob Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, where an 18-year-old gunman murdered 19 small children and 2 of their teachers, was already pretty hardened. You see, Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District had its own 6-strong police force. It had its own armed security guards. It had its own perimeter fencing and a locked classroom policy, all according to a security plan posted on its website. Still, the shooter found an unlocked door, and the only thing that might have saved those children, those 19 babies and 2 teachers, were men of courage and action rushing into the line of fire. That's right, men. Instead, they had armed police officers milling about outside their classrooms, reportedly for over an hour, as blood flowed unchecked, and innocent souls rose to heaven. Imagine for a moment that you are one of the desperate parents to one of these babies and were prevented by the cops from going inside the school to save your beautiful son or daughter. I can only imagine your rage would be rightly insatiable. But armchair Twitter warriors armed with minimal real data, ranting about cowardice and drumming up death threats for Uvalde police, are also missing the point. You see, it turns out you can't bully people to be brave, and you can't nag them into valor. They either are that way, or in this case, they are not. They either are the first responders, like on 9/11, running towards danger to save strangers, men who strapped on oxygen tanks to climb 110 flights of stairs to their deaths. They either are like those men, or they are not. You see, we used to venerate men like the entire shift of 15 firefighters from Midtown's Engine 54, Ladder 4, Battalion 9. Men whose fading photographs still face the heedless crowds on 8th Avenue. Men with families to live for, who rushed to their deaths on 9/11 because they believed in a system of honor and duty, one in which they were destined to be guardians of the community. Men like Battalion Chief Edward Garrity, he was 45. Firefighters Alan Feinberg, who was 48, and Jose Guadalupe, 37. Leonard Regaglia was 36. Michael Lynch was 30. And just a baby himself, Christopher Santora, was 23. And there were many others. Now their inheritors show up at emergencies and the public throws bottles of urine at them. Social justice warriors and their eager media accomplices smear cops every day as racists and murderers. AC, AB, they all chant. All cops are bastards. That's one of their favorite hashtags. Now, Well, we pathologize manly virtues and bow to the tyranny of identity politics that seeks power by overthrowing a make-believe patriarchy. And then we raise boys in a soup of reproach and negativity that tells them that their very intrinsic nature is diseased. Traditional masculinity is psychologically harmful, the American Psychological Association declared in 2019. What were the masculine attributes they listed as diseased? You might ask yourself. Well, stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, aggression, anti-femininity, achievement, the eschewal of the appearance of weakness, adventure, risk, and violence. The only acceptable man now is a man who wants to be a woman. We celebrate pregnant men and we celebrate men that chest feed. You see, in the drive to destroy masculinity, we've had to erase women as well. We ignore the crisis that sees men commit suicide at ever-increasing rates or succumb to drug abuse and porn addiction, all the while savvy young women graduate from college in disproportionate numbers. Women train from childhood to be entitled and unrealistic about relationships, their own fertility, and the sacrifices and joys of motherhood, causing many to become bitter, ultimately blaming men for their confusion. Along the way, we emasculate the institutions that were necessarily masculine for our very protection, notably the military. As an example, the U.S. Marines celebrated lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex Pride Month by tweeting a picture of a combat helmet adorned with rainbow-colored bullets. So, what do men do? Well, they recoil and retreat. They leave the stage for hysterical epsilon men like Beto O'Rourke. Men who whine and posture, but can't possibly protect a single thing. Then, when we need a strong, quick-thinking Gary Cooper to save us from outlaws, he's nowhere to be found. You see, Gary Cooper types have been rendered extinct, leaving 19 kids to be slaughtered inside a classroom while men and women wearing the legacy costume of toxic masculinity stand around waiting for orders. C.S. Lewis foretold this happening in his dystopian book, written in 1943, titled The Abolition of Man. He said, quote, "We make men without chests and expect from them virtue and enterprise. We laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst. We castrate and then bid the geldings be fruitful." Ladies and gentlemen, we have a masculinity crisis in this country, one that we had best get in front of sooner rather than later. Hey, my friends, I hope you enjoy what you're hearing. Do us a favor. Go out, like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast if you will. Help us out. Leave a comment. Go over to Apple Podcasts. Leave us that 5-star rating. Sure help us out, and we'd appreciate it. And as always, thank you very much for listening.